Anything? Hello, malt whisky lovers around the world. Today we have Ian Buxton on the Skype channel. Ian has just written a new book called The Enduring Legacy of Dewars. The world of Dewars, Ian was very much involved with setting up. Ian is well known throughout the whisky industry, writer of many books, and especially on the economy and whisky, there's not much that he doesn't know. Ian is a keeper of the Quaich since 1991, and he writes for Whisky Magazine, etc. I'm going to ask him a couple of questions on his new book. Just one last thing I'll tell you about him before I start asking him questions is that Ian organises the World Whisky Conference each year, held in Glasgow. Now, on the new book, welcome Ian. Glad to have you with us on the Scotch and Folk channel.
Afternoon, Joe.
Afternoon.
To you.
Yeah, from Holland to Scotland to Pitlochry. Nice to see you. You have a new book on Dewars, The Enduring Legacy of Dewars, and we've seen loads and loads of books coming out in recent years. For example, about the rebirth of the giant Bruichladdich and about Lafroig and Ardbeg and all sorts of... this is the first book I've seen on a blend, or first major book I've seen on a blend anyway in recent years. And I was wondering if there's been a renewed interest in blends around the world, book-wise anyway.
Well, I think that's right, Joe. This book is probably one of the first in recent years anyway about the great blending houses. Helen Arthur had a book out about 3 years ago about teachers. I think that got slightly lost because it came out almost at the time when the Teachers Company was sold and the brand changed hands, so a little bit of ill fortune for that book. But certainly this is the first time I think that there's been anything about the great blending houses. You're right, of course, that most of the single distillery books have been about single malts in the last few years. Worth remembering that if we didn't have the great blending houses, and if we didn't have blended whisky, which is still globally more than 90% of all the whisky that's sold, many of these single malts would not have survived. But the story of the blending houses is a different story. It's one, in the case of Dewars in particular, of entrepreneurship, of commercial vision, and of a great family company built up from the 1840s and surviving in family ownership, albeit a different family, surviving in family ownership to this day. So it's a different type of story. I suspect if you looked at some of the other great blends, the Buchanans, the Ballantines, the Walkers, the famous Grouse and so forth, there are different stories to be told there, and they would find an audience.
Okay. Oh, lovely. And another question. I know from some of the other books that have come out recently, by just reading in the introduction of the books, that there's some whisky companies have got loads and loads of material, loads of archives. Other ones, every time they get bought over by someone else, the old archives get destroyed, and it's very difficult to research them and to find out how their past was. How was this with Dewars? Did you have a lot of material at your disposal?
Yeah, well, that's interesting, Joe. Interesting question there, because I think attitudes have changed. It certainly would have been the case a few years ago, and up until surprisingly recently, that when companies took over other companies, they tended to try and expunge all the history and just rewrite history in the name of the victor. And some of the old material was fairly casually treated. That has changed in fairness. There was a fantastic archive of material for Dewars. In fairness, this was built up under the previous ownership. Dewars, as you'll know, for many years was part of the DCL, which became UDV, which became United Distillers. And United Distillers, that's today, we know them as Diageo, began to understand the importance of the heritage and history of their brands, and they built up and maintain to this day a fantastic archive in Fife in Scotland. with a lot of old packaging, old advertising, board minutes, commercial records, everything you can think of, and they look after that very seriously. So that basis was there for Dewars when Dewars was sold at the time of the formation of Diageo, and all of that is recounted in the book. And of course the archive formed part of the company's assets, so it was passed over to the new owners, which was the Bacardi company. They, as a family company, really do understand and appreciate the importance of history and heritage. They maintain a significant archive for Bacardi. So when they received the Dewars archive, they immediately knew it was important. The first thing they did was hire a professional archivist. That's a lady called Jackie Sargent, who's still there, and I worked closely with Jackie on this book. And they now have proper storage facilities. They've increased that archive. And to the question, was there material? In fact, the book is, as you've seen, nearly 200 pages long. It's a big coffee table format. We could have made it twice as long. There was that much material. Wow. So much has been saved. So much is absolutely fascinating. We had to edit very hard to reduce it to 200 pages. So yeah, there was plenty of material.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And a final question. Well, actually, I've got two more. It's such a big coffee table format book. Is there a soft cover and a hard cover?
There are three versions, in fact. There's a soft cover, which is generally what I think people will probably buy. That's the trade edition you can get from the Neil Wilson Publishing website or from Amazon. There's some hard covers, and they made, which was very lovely, they made several hundred, just a couple of hundred, leather-bound copies in a beautiful leather slipcase, which Dewars are using as VIP gifts. So I'm afraid few of us will ever see those, although they kindly sent me one for my library.
Okay.
Collectors will want those beautiful leather-bound ones, but yeah, there's a hardback and the paperback as well.
Oh, lovely! How well has it been received around the world, or is it just part of the world?
Well, because in these digital days and with the interweb or whatever it is that we're speaking over now, there is no part of the world anymore. You publish something in Britain, and next thing we know, people are buying it in Greenland. So I would say it has been well received. It's early days yet, but we've had some generous reviews. People have responded well to the book. It's a handsome thing. It looks well. I like to think it reads reasonably well. And of course, Dewars is a very big brand in the USA, where I think it's still #1 blended whiskey. It's big on certain parts of the continent. And Bacardi / Dewars are working hard to grow it. So I think we'll see the book following the Dewars brand around the world. Okay,
well, thanks for talking to us about the book, Ian. And well, for you viewers, I'll be back in just a couple of minutes with part 2, where we'll be talking to Ian about the whisky industry in general. But for this time, I'll be putting up next to the film itself some links where you can buy the book, The Enduring Legacy of Dewars by Ian Buxton. Look out for it at a bookstore near you, or order it from Amazon. Until next time, bye whisky lovers.